Hello, everybody. Always making more sound effects on top of sound effects. That is me. Hello, welcome to my blurred opinion, and welcome to episode 185. Alright, everybody, we are back again. I like to tell people where I find people, which is in this case, once again, is Podmatch. I've been finding some people in other places as well lately, like TikTok and things, but Podmatch, I need to go back and see how many people I found off of there. But really, seriously, if you're just looking to be on a podcast or you're looking to find guests, please check it out. But I was just kind of going through every so often. I go to the keywords and I'll type in certain things, whether it's disability or whatever. And she just popped up because she's new, and so every so often I'll refresh it to just see if anyone new shows up in the little queue there or whatever you want to call it. And so I go, okay. I reached out to her. I saw her story, and there's a lot of layers to it. Obviously, a lot of it has to do with her and her daughter, and I always love to, because there's some people you can't have on the show, unfortunately, because of how much their disability affects them, especially when it comes to like mental disabilities. And it's unfortunate, but that's why you have to find the next best thing. And a parent is the closest thing to that, which we've had on here multiple times. And but at the same time, as we have the parents on, we're still fighting for those, and I mean me and anybody I have on, like we're still fighting for the people who can't conversate, because we have to protect each other. And that's why the disability community has always been so frustrating to me, because we don't support each other enough, and we don't love each other enough, and we don't come together enough to where we accept each other all as one big group. We tend to kind of shy away from it and go into our own little corner. Like in my case, I'm supposed to be the eye department, but I hate that because I don't see why, because I see the struggle that people go through in every department, whether it's the eyes, ears, whatever. It doesn't matter. And so we're gonna just delve into this one here, because I think it's important to, one, hear their story, but just I think it can help a lot of people in many different areas. So you want to tell us your name and maybe a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I'm Deana Gaccione. I'm 57 years old. I live in Arizona, and I live with my daughter, Jaelin, who's 16. And I just want to first say thank you so much, TJ, for having me on.
Sure.
And I just really appreciate what you've done in creating a space for people with challenges. I appreciate that very much. So I
Anytime.
have to say, yeah, I know you know about my daughter's issues, but I'm going to kind of go back a little farther, if that's okay.
No, no, yeah. Just because I know
Um,
they don't know,
okay,
so yeah, please.
okay.
And I just want
I'm
to
going to
say
begin with.
that picture you
Mhm.
guys have on that link you sent me, you guys are very adorable together.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Well, I didn't even know there was the whole world of people with challenges, outside the quote norm. That is until I was thrust into it. So uh, I'm referring to my situation with my daughter, which I'll get to.
Sure.
But prior to that, when I was young, it started, when I was 22, I quite suddenly became ill. I was needing to sleep for up to 16 hours a day and always feeling exhausted. So, of course, I went to the doctors. They could not find any problems. All the testing was done, and they told me it was all in my head. And so they tried to prescribe antidepressants for me. So this, way back in the 80s, this is what began my journey into natural health and into nutrition. I was trying to help myself. So within a few years of that, the chronic sleeping kind of switched over to no sleep at all. And I was always trying new things, anything I could find. There wasn't a lot back then, no internet, very few alternative doctors, but anything I found, I tried. But I basically just learned to push through life. I worked, I raised kids, and all the rest. But always the exhaustion was there. And more symptoms came upon me as time went on. I had chronic pain throughout my body, lots of anxiety. every single day. And this was one of my biggest challenges. Around midday, this what I call black cloud would come over me, and within minutes, I felt like my brain would shut down. I would have to lie down, and I'd instantly fall into a deep sleep, and I would wake up in 5 to 10 minutes. I called this my crash, and it happened every single day. I had to plan every day around this thing. One of the hardest things was taking my kids to field trips. I'd have to sneak out to my car when it would happen. And if I happened to be driving, I'd have to pull over right away. So I learned to manage it. I pushed through. I took tons of caffeine just to push through the days, which was horrible for me, I know. My adrenals were exhausted. My nervous system eventually became stuck in fight or flight mode for me. And, this was my life for the last 30 years. However, last year, I think because of COVID, all the things I normally did to maintain were no longer working for me. So by the end of the year, I was becoming very concerned. I'm a single mother, and Jaelin is has been quite the challenge from the beginning. It's not her fault; she can't help it, but
No, no, for sure.
challenging nonetheless, right?
Yeah.
So in December, an old friend of mine who I hadn't seen in 15 years, now this is last year, she sent me some information about this wearable phototherapy product that activates cells. And these cells can turn into whatever cells are needed in the body to be repaired or regenerated. So I wondered, well, where has this been? Why haven't I seen this? Because I try to stay on top of everything that comes out, and I try everything that comes out on me and my daughter. So I Googled it, and the first thing I saw was a mother uh, describing what this had done for her special needs son. So right away, I ordered it for my daughter. There were no drugs in it. It was non-invasive, so I thought we're going to try this. Uh, it's there's nothing going into your body. It's just basically light stimulating your skin. So I thought, well, after hearing what that mother said it did for her child, I thought I got to try this. So I did. I put it on me as well, but I wasn't really expecting much for me. I was mainly looking, for any kind of improvements for my daughter. So now I'll tell you about Jaelin. She's 16. She was born with a rare genetic disorder, and from the beginning, she had significant developmental delays in all areas. So she also had severe ADHD, and her body never stopped moving and twitching, even during sleep. And this is from the time she was born.
Yeah.
So a
Can I say
therapist,
something real quick? Because
sure,
one
yes,
of the things you were talking about earlier, when it comes to like how you were kind of keeping yourself together with caffeine and whatnot, like I I
hmm
always just man, I always feel for those people, and I've kind of been in that position and well with supplements and things where it's just so much is going on because like life just like never stops. But like you kind
right,
of want it to because you need to heal, you need to, physically
right,
heal, mentally heal, and you need to just kind of take in what is happening. But because life continues to
hmm.
move so quickly, and like you can't just stop paying your bills, you can't just stop showering, you
hmm
can't stop doing all the
taking
things that
care
you
of your
need to,
kids,
right. And so
right,
so you're just kind of gluing yourself back together. You're just sometimes with
hmm
just tape, and you're just
oh
hoping to
yeah,
God that you can just make it through the day with
keep through,
coffee,
hmm
or some people obviously get into pills and all kind of other things. And
hmm
it's with my mom being a nurse, I mean, I've had her on the show because what it's like to tell. She told part of my story, but also what it's like to be a nurse during COVID. And
mm.
we talked about like how many nurses, not her, but how many nurses get into drugs, like pills
Yeah,
and stuff they end up taking from the hospital or just getting into in their own life because they pull their back out at work because they're lifting some
hmm
heavy man. And then
hmm
now it's like, but they can't just like take off work. They have to keep going or they
right,
could lose their job. And
that's
so they,
right,
they just keep shoving down pills, and
pushing through,
yeah, and they're just pushing through. And as much as that sounds awful at the same time, like there is a certain amount of like inner strength, and that is like the fight or flight where you just keep pushing, you keep
hmm
fighting, and you keep going. And
right.
it's so many people are doing that nowadays. It's really
Well,
rough.
it's so true. I didn't know what the alternative would be. Give up? What do? Life, like you said, life keeps going. I have to function. I was doing all the natural stuff. I was doing every therapy I could find. I was doing everything I knew to do for myself. And yet, it wasn't enough to be able to get through the day and do all that I needed to do during the day. So I knew caffeine was terrible for my adrenals, right? It makes you more exhausted, actually. And yet I had to. I had to. And so then I'd be so wired up, and you're just exhausted. So your mind never really feels rested, but
Yeah.
you've been able to keep going. And so then, by the end of the day, then you need something to kind of like settle down, right? I mean, it's just a vicious cycle. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, you crash
And
really hard off of
yeah,
caffeine. Yeah.
yeah, it's and it's going to happen, and what's going to happen the next day, and it's going to be a rough night trying to sleep, and how exhausted you're going to get up in the morning, but you just have to keep going, right? So
Oh yeah.
that's what people do. And I know, so many of us are self-medicating, just to get by, just
Yeah.
to get through the days. And I have a lot of compassion for people, because I understand. I seriously do.
And that's kind of how I kind of started inviting people on who are also got into addiction, because though I've never done drugs in
Exactly.
my life, I have an
Mhm.
addictive personality. I remember with video games and things, and I would just keep playing and playing and playing. I didn't care if my eyes were bulging out of my eyes,
Yeah, I
my
couldn't
face.
stop.
My eyes are red and already bad enough,
Oh,
and I'm just playing and playing. I'm just like, what am I doing? And I don't play
right.
much anymore, but like it's just I know I have an addictive personality. I know I've taken many medications in my life, and obviously
Mm,
medication is one of the things that almost killed me, what caused all of
mm,
this in the first place, an allergic
yeah.
reaction. But yeah, it's I remember having I took a monster, one of those Monster Energy drinks, and I don't drink
Mm,
that stuff. I hate that kind of stuff, and I'm not saying I'm the most healthy person, but I don't.
mhm.
That kind of is just
You.
too much sugar for me, and it's like
Mhm.
you either like that stuff or you don't. And my friend, he'll
Yeah.
drink like 3 or 4 in a day, no problem. And I drank
Oh my
one,
gosh.
and I downed it. I wasn't a fan of it. It was one of the better tasting ones, but it was still disgusting. And I was like, all right, I'll down it. I drank it, and I was like on a high for like
Mhm.
12 hours. But when
Oh, it was like doing a drug. I bet your heart was pounding.
oh yeah, I felt good
Mhm.
to be honest. But
Oh, you
then
had lots of energy.
yeah,
Okay.
but when
But
I
then you're
got
proud.
home, and all of a sudden it was just like instantly like I needed to just be in a
Mm,
coma for a week, because it was like, oh my god, I am
mm,
exhausted.
mhm.
Like I actually, and again, technically I did
Right.
work that day and I did bowl that day, but it was like it almost felt like I was like working in a coal mine, and like I
Yeah.
really did something that physical. And no, I just literally, as soon as I got
Mhm.
home, I think I was trying to eat something, and I just like, I'm not finishing this, and I just laid in my bed and passed out.
Mm. Yeah. Can you imagine doing that every single day? It's
Yeah,
extremely addictive.
I'm
And so it
sure.
gets to the point. So it's like drugs, the first time or two you do some drugs, it feels so good,
Yeah.
and then it doesn't feel so good. You need to do more you're trying to feel that again, right? Feel that good again. And then it just traps you because it doesn't ever feel that good again. But yet you feel so horrible if you're not doing it. So see, I have a background with that too. I know all about that. So yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. And those energy drinks, they are just really powerful and really hard on your heart.
Oh, I
I
know. Yeah.
mean, when people do these things, you know, there's going to come a time when there's a price to pay. You can't do this stuff to your body and have it not affect your body. And when you're young, you can get away with it for some time. But you ever notice how everybody in their 50s and 60s and even in their 40s, they're all starting to have the same kinds of issues, and they have to get on meds, and then one thing leads to another, and ugh, it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
really is. Things have to turn around here, and they have for me. That's why I'm so passionate, and desire so much to get our story out, because I know this can help people. Okay, so anyway, thank you
Yeah. No,
again
no,
for
you're fine.
having
Yeah.
me.
No, please go back
Yeah,
into your
shall I
daughter.
continue?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is my little girl. She's 16. And a therapist once told me that I should imagine myself driving a car going 100 miles an hour with no brakes. And she told me that's how Jaelin's brain feels all the time. And that just really impacted me, because
It's a very vivid
I have to
image.
tell you, being the mother of a child like this, really, it's called survival, TJ. And that's where I was. Besides my own health issues that made regular life so incredibly hard, now I had this child that I didn't even have till I was 41. And I'm telling you, I thought, God, I know that you don't give us more than we can bear, but, but
He's gonna
I don't
test you.
know. I don't know what you were thinking here. I don't know if I'm the best mom. In fact, I'm sure I'm not the best mom for Jaelin. Somebody else could do so much better. But I did my best. I've always done my best with her, and by God's grace, here we're still here. And so my little one, she could just never stop basically running. She couldn't focus. She couldn't really listen to you because her brain was going too fast. She also had 6 to 8 seizures per year, and those were very, very scary because they're not just an episode and then they're over. It can affect her for weeks. So many trips to the hospital, and and they were getting worse with new symptoms from these seizures each time, and I never knew, is this one going to be something that, I never knew. There was always that fear that this could be something worse than we've ever experienced. So
Yeah, my sister used to have
anyway, that
seizures,
was,
and it was
pardon me?
hard. My sister used to have really bad seizures. Hers were more, she would just kind of be stuck in place, and wherever she was, she would just fall. So like I one time saw her on the steps, and she just fell. Like she was going up, she was made it to like the third step, and then she just paused and then fell backwards. Now
Wow.
she, as far as I know, she doesn't have them anymore. She went through many different little
Yeah.
procedures. She had that whole thing where
Some
they,
kids will, some kids will grow out of them, I guess.
yeah, hers weren't like where you get really bad shakes, and it didn't cause a lot of really bad
Yeah,
damage to her.
Jalen's were not that type either, the convulsive type, but hers were very, very scary. Um, her body would go numb. She just, like half her body would go numb. They actually, and she'd collapse and like half of her mouth wouldn't move. They treated her for a stroke once. I mean, they couldn't believe it. They sent her to the stroke section of the hospital. They said, we've never seen this in a child, but she's displaying all the symptoms of a stroke.
So like half
And
her body would just like go through like some sort of paralysis.
yes, paralysis, exactly. And she couldn't talk and she couldn't answer questions. And, she had tics and just all kinds of really scary things. And she would vomit. She'd just vomit for, it could be up to 24 hours, never stopping and just crying and in pain because of the pain in her head. And she'd just be begging me to make it stop. And I just can't tell you how, that feels as a mother.
I was going to ask you that because the reason why this story is somewhat parallel to mine is because I could put myself in my mom's shoes. I've been there where she saw me nearly dying, and you know
Uh,
no skin,
there's
and
nothing worse.
they're
There's
telling
nothing
her,
worse for a mother.
yeah, they're telling her that
Nothing.
your son's gonna die, and she has to deal with that. And then with that, she also has to try to keep me going. And once I
Right.
finally come out of that, and it's like, okay, he's gonna live, but what kind of life is he gonna live? Now, obviously, for her, it's much worse than mine, but it was just like we didn't know how my skin was gonna grow back. We didn't know obviously the eyes and all these different things, and who
All the
knows all the,
unknowns.
yeah, because they had to take my gallbladder out and all these things had to be removed, so we didn't know what I was gonna be, and
Right.
luckily I guess I turned out okay, but yeah, what is that
But
like
you
for a
didn't know
mother?
that. Your mom didn't know that. That's right.
Yeah, so what is that
It's
like for a mother to
it's
be on the sideline where you almost feel helpless because you're not the doctor, you can't
mm,
actually physically help her, so like how does that feel for
mm,
you?
mm. It's devastating. And yet I could never let her see that in my face, right?
Sure.
I had to be reassuring because she was scared. When these things would come upon her, she's extremely happy all the time. Um, but when these things would come upon her, she'd feel them coming on, and I knew it was happening because she had this look of fear in her face. That's the only time in her life she ever had that look. She's, mom, my hand feels funny. And then there were times where she couldn't see at all. I can't see anything. Like she'd go blind.
Wow.
And, I never knew. I just never knew how bad is this thing going to get. They were progressively getting worse. But anyway, let me tell you the rest of the story because it has a really wonderful. It's not the ending, but there was a transformation that took place at the beginning of the year. So, shall I continue?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, our life before January was extremely challenging. I could never leave her unsupervised. She just had she had a very, like, her brain was operating at like a 3-year-old. And so, imagine a toddler that you have to have eyes on at all times, but in a 16-year-old body, right?
Right,
It's
right.
tough because she can do things. She would sneak out the windows. She was constantly trying to do things that she didn't have the ability to do. She didn't have the coordination, and she didn't know, she had no sense that things were dangerous. One night, I was asleep, and all of a sudden I heard screaming, and I run outside of my room, and she's running in from the garage screaming, and I see like there are car lights out there. I didn't know what was going on. Well, running to her, and she was just crying, and she was hysterical, but she was okay. So I ran out to see what are these car lights, and she had taken my keys and opened the garage door and backed the car out, and then she must have panicked. The car was in neutral, and it was running with the lights on, and the door was open. So she jumped out of the car, and she ran in the house. Now, this is terrifying. When I was about 19 years old, my best friend's little child at 3 years old had a similar thing happen. Was in a car that was running, got out of the car, and the car backed over the child, the 3-year-old, and
Ugh.
he died.
Awful.
And, this just struck such fear in me. This was last year, and I just thought, oh my gosh, how are we going to survive this? This is getting harder and harder. So then, more measures, more safety measures, everything on lockdown, alarms, cameras, I just keep adding things. And as she's getting bigger and wanting to do more things, because she wants to do everything she sees other people doing.
Yeah.
And yet she can't.
Yeah.
So it was just getting really concerning. So she had to be told everything to do every single time, including like wash your hands, close the door, flush the toilet. She fought me on everything. When I say she was happy all the time, she was happy with everybody else, but with me, she fought me. She was very combative. She started breaking things when she was upset. So managing all of that was tough. If I got, if I overpowered her too much, it was just escalate. I was constantly trying to figure out ways to calm her down, get back into a calmer state. So one of the other big challenges was that, and still is, that she has no sense of stranger danger, and she's extremely social and loves people. Like I said, everybody but me. So if the doorbell rang, she'd run to it and open up the door. This is a basic thing you teach your kids. We don't open the door for strangers, right? But no matter how many times, thousands of times I've told her that, she would do that. So we have a gate. We live on a little farm. And so, people drive up to the gate. Delivery drivers drive up to the gate. If she would see anybody drive up to the gate, she would run to the gate. Well, you know how dangerous this is in this world today?
Yeah.
Okay, I live in this great big city where you don't want to do that. We'd be in the store, anywhere in public, and she would just pull away from me and go hug people, strangers, just hug them. So it was just hard to even take her out. And, and yet she needs to be out. So we just had a lot of challenges. I've always had her in a lot of activities, but I always had to be right there. I had to be right there. So just coaching her all along the way, not to get into people's space, keep your hands, no hugging, just this kind of thing. So bedtime was also very challenging because she would constantly get up and wander around, go outside. And I could not go to sleep, or I could not even think about resting until I knew she was asleep. And then we still had the danger of her getting up.
It's got to be frustrating because you almost have to kind of treat her like a prisoner.
I know. And believe me, she's getting older, and she's going through puberty, and she doesn't want to be treated like that. Because part of her brain is functioning, knows that she's older and she's resisting that, authority and being told what to do. So she's, just resisting me with everything. And yet she didn't have the ability, to make most decisions and to regulate, because she couldn't understand that something could be dangerous for her. And she didn't know how to stop. There was a part of her brain that didn't have that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very challenging. And I couldn't even allow myself to think about the future. I was just like day by day. But if I ever stopped to think, what's going to happen, in 10 years or 5 years, I just couldn't go there. So with her doing this all night, not being able to sleep, and then finally going to sleep, she'd be up at the crack of dawn. Like, that's the one thing that never kicked in as a teenager. Teenagers like to sleep. They like to sleep till noon. That's my other kids did, but not Jaelin. She was up at the crack of dawn. All right, so that's a little bit about some of our just daily challenges in life. So we started this new product in January. And now I'm going to tell you what happened, okay, since then. So here's where it gets good, okay?
Okay.
She's homeschooled. I homeschool her here because I've never been able to find a school that works, for her. We've tried many. She has a tutor that comes in a couple times a week. And on those days, I have to give her, or I did have to give her ADD meds. So I'm not a big drug, person. And I would only give her the meds when she absolutely needed it. On those days, she could not sit with a tutor and work if she didn't have her meds. So I was about 9:30 one morning. She'd been on this product for a couple of weeks, and typically I have to go find her. She's out with the animals. She's not dressed, and who's going to be here? And we start fighting over, you got to get in here and get dressed. Get your hair brushed, and she fights with me. That's our typical morning. But at this day, I found her sitting at the table. She had her books all spread out, ready for the tutor. She had made herself a snack. She had made herself a drink, and she was sitting there reading a book. Okay, so I just stopped dead in my tracks because not one of those things had ever happened. And this is how suddenly this happened. One single day, this is what I walked in on, and she didn't see me because she was reading a book. And I had never seen her read a book on her own. She can read, but you have to force her to read. You have to insist she reads, and then she'll only read if somebody's reading with her. But there she was. So I just observed her, and her body was perfectly calm. There was no moving. There was no shaking, twitching, none of that. That's another thing I had never seen. And I just went, whoa, So I said to myself, all right, tutor's going to be here in half an hour. This is going to be a good test, right? He works with her for 3 hours. We'll just see if he says anything to me, after the session. So I didn't say anything to him. But after that session that day, he got down to the gate and he texted me. And he said that Jaelin's concentration was great in big letters. She was very willing to try new things. And he had never given me feedback. He had never given me any feedback that he had to stop and tell me that this day. And she was not on her meds. So this was totally not normal. So when he came back a few days later, I told him. I said, hey, she wasn't on her meds. And he goes, what's going on? And so I told him, and he goes, I want to do another math test. And he said the best she's ever done is 51 out of 100. I said, please do. This will be a good test to see what's happening. And so he did that math test with her that day, and she got 100 out of 100.
Wow.
And he said her speed was greatly increased. So that was in January, and Jaelin has had no meds since January. We don't do them anymore. She doesn't need them anymore. So, in January, prior to starting on these products, she had a big an assessment where it assessed not only where she was academically, but her logic, her processing, like a well-rounded assessment. She scored 90, which put her at a kindergarten level. So that was in January. 5 weeks after she started on these products, we decided to do another assessment. She scored 300, which put her at an upper third grade, lower fourth grade level.
Huge improvement.
Dramatic. Absolutely dramatic. I mean, from kindergarten level to upper third grade, lower fourth grade level. And it's just that her brain was processing in ways that it could not before. So some of the things that have changed since then is I can go to bed at night. I can even leave her up. She doesn't need 24/7 supervision. I just tell her, turn everything off when you go to bed. I'll see you in the morning. She is able to do that. She does that. That's just, major. This all happened around spring break here. And Jaelin attended rock climbing camp for a whole week, Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. And these were typical kids, not special needs kids. And I was able to leave her there. See, she was already in rock climbing, but I had to be right there with her. And she was able to attend that camp, and she had no problems whatsoever. She's totally taken responsibility for her chores. Like, she just got busy taking care of the animals, cleaning her room. She took an interest in her appearance, which I don't even think she ever thought about that before. It didn't enter her mind. Like, it wouldn't a toddler, But now she's thinking about how she looks. She's behaving more age appropriately. She even recently told me that I was embarrassing her,
like a
which is
teenage
very
girl
age
should.
appropriate.
Yeah.
That's right. We've had no combative episodes since then. None of that. That's done. We haven't had any seizures. We haven't had any seizures, and she sleeps in. So our lives have just completely changed. And this was the beginning of the year, and I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it because it just all happened so suddenly. And, I can't imagine ever going back to the way it was, but still, it's just still hard for me to believe what has happened. She's learning things she couldn't learn before. She started piano lessons. She started ballet. Before, she could do very simple addition and subtraction. Now she's doing multiplication and fractions. She could never master money before. We were always working on it because I thought that's an important skill she's going to need, when she grows up when she goes to buy something, she needs to know how to count money, right? But now she's totally counting bills, coins, making change. She loves to do her own shopping now. So we go to the grocery store together. She gets her own cart, and she likes to use her own money. And she totally has the money thing down. And maybe one of the most amazing things is she's starting to talk about her future, which she didn't have a concept about her future before. She was in the moment, right?
Sure.
She's bringing up things like, Mom, when I get a job and move out, she's saying stuff like that. So it's like, wow. It's kind of like when your kids are really little and every day they do something new they never did before. I never had that with Jaelin until now. So it's just remarkable.
Because you go through a lot of phases in life and you start to like unlock things. Just because, one of the things that I've said about myself is I'm happy what all happened to me. A lot of it happened when I was a kid because I didn't know much. Whereas now I actually know a lot, and I have actual depression and anxiety. And if my skin just started falling off and I'm in immense pain and I'm crying and all these stuff, like, it would be a much more traumatic situation than it would have been then, because then I was still relatively happy. I was in pain, I'd cry, and I'd get over it. But like, as long as I had my toys and my family was around, I was all right.
Right.
So there's periods of your life.
Kids are amazing that way.
Yeah, you're very resilient. But like, when you get older, become a teenager, there's a lot of things. There's just certain parts of you just unlock. And it's a lot like a video game, and you just start to open, your brain just starts to expand, and there's just all these more and more experiences add to it, and you're just like, oh, okay, now this is why I feel the way I do because of this, and oh, now puberty and all these things come into play, and you're like, oh, like, this life is just totally different. And because for a long time you have the training wheels on where you're going to school and your parents are taking care of you, and then there's a point where you hit, whether it's 18 or whatever, and you start to like, oh, future, and oh, girls, and all these things, and you're like, oh my goodness, I need to, I don't even want to be near my parents. They were the coolest thing in the world, and now it's like I want to be my own thing, and then
that's normal.
Yeah, but then you go through a phase of being around women, and maybe, or whatever you're dating, and then maybe you have kids, and then you realize it comes full circle because now you know what your parents went through. And so
That's
it's a whole
right.
thing. Yeah, it's so many
It's a
things.
cycle, like you said. Yeah, and I didn't appreciate my mom and my dad, especially my mom, until I started having babies. And then my mom just became like my best friend, you know. And prior to that, I loved my parents dearly, but in my mind, I kind of concentrated on, you know, their mistakes and their faults. And sort of, I guess, kind of subconsciously maybe blamed them for some of my issues, you know, because, you know, whatever. But then you have kids and you gain an understanding that, you know, there are no perfect people. There are no perfect parents. I know they were doing the best that they could at the time with what they had to work with and with what they knew. They loved us, you know, that's the main thing. And so you're right, it comes full circle. And when I started having children, my mom became my best friend. And so I was very blessed, you know, for a few decades to have my mom just be, you know, number one right there, my biggest supporter. And she passed away a few years ago.
Sorry
And
to
I
hear that.
only wish, yeah, thank you. I only wish that I knew about these products at the time, because now I see people on these products with the same kind of issues that she died from. And, you know, they're having like complete turnarounds and it's taking care of it. I didn't have it, but that's okay. You know, that's okay. We just work with what we have when we have it, do the best we can. And hopefully we're always growing, right? And
Yeah.
always learning and always improving. And we can't beat ourselves up for the past and for things we did because we didn't know any better. You know, when you know better, you do better, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think like
Yeah.
for me, like so, I mean, I talked to you a little bit about it the other day. Was that so? I recently got fired like a month and a half ago, and I'm bringing it up only because, you know, back in the day, like years and years ago, things like that would have affected me traumatically. Like I would have just been
Yeah.
devastated. Oh my God, life's over. Blah blah blah, because my anxiety would have taken over. And I'm not saying it didn't bug me at all. It did. I was there for 8.5 years. And I'm still trying to find another job. But I've been looking at because I've had this time to heal and not just heal from
Mm-hmm.
that, but heal from a lot of things in life. Because like I said, life went moves so quickly, and we don't really get a time to just kind of sit and relax. And so this last like month and a half, I've been kind of, though I've been putting in work to try to get another job and whatever, but I've also been trying to clean the house up. I've been trying to just do things I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
normally do. And I've been working
Yes.
on me like immensely. Like I've been using my whiteboard where I just write down like typical tasks that I should do, whether it's even just like, hey, do the podcast interview, or let's say you know, in like a week or so, I want to check on you. And I know I'll probably procrastinate until like weeks go by and I'm like, oh my God, I never checked on her. So like I'll just write it on the
Mm-hmm.
board and I'll just say text
Mm-hmm.
Deanna, and then I can write a
Mm-hmm.
check mark next to it that day because I did it.
Yes.
And so what I was
Mm-hmm.
getting at is that when things like this happen, you know, so I lose my job. So sure, it's not, you know, something that's just, oh my God, just get over it. It is something that can be a small amount of traumatic, you know, can be traumatizing to some
Mm-hmm.
degree, because I was there 8.5
Mm-hmm.
years, and you know, now trying to find another job in a world where people with disabilities aren't accepted the way they should be. But
Mm-hmm.
when I look at it now, this is more of like a more evolved, more intelligent and mature me. I'm looking at it like, okay, on a scale from 1 to 10, what is it? Well, I don't know unless I compare it to a 10. And so I go, okay, in the hospital, nearly dying, no skin,
Mm-hmm.
visually, my vision is going rapidly. That's pretty much a 10 on anyone's scale. So then I
Right.
go, I compare that to this. What is this? Well, this is at best a 2. So then it's like,
There you
oh,
go.
okay, it really downsized it tremendously, because now I'm like, all right, this
Mm.
sucks. But then
Mm-hmm.
then I even took it a step further, where about 8.5 years ago, before I moved up here, my mom was kind of selling the house, and she basically said, you can move in with me, or basically, you know, you'll have to find another route. And my back was against the corner, you know, in a corner, and I had to fight my way out. And I'm like, well, what do I do? And so I had to pull out
Mm-hmm.
not only a place to stay, also a job, and so like, okay, if I compare it to that, and not only that, I moved
Mm-hmm.
3.5 hours away. Whereas this, I
Mm.
can stay in the same area I'm at. All I got to do, I don't have to pull out a place to live. I have that. I just have to pull a job out
Mm-hmm.
of my ass. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, in comparison to that, this is 50% 50%, you know, easier to deal with and manageable. So it's like you
Yeah.
start doing things like that where you start to realize
Mhm.
you can manage. So if, like, for you, obviously, just for physical reasons for yourself and how much chronic pain and things you've gone through, the days that are tens. At the same time, you also
Mhm.
know the days that with your daughter what were tens. Like, right off the
Mhm.
scale, her going up and hugging strangers and
Yeah.
backing the car up and at random moments and things, like, those are really bad days. So, like, even
Yeah.
when she has a setback where it's like, oh,
Mm.
okay, she's not herself, like, totally where she was yesterday, it's like, well, it's not backing the car up in a garage.
Yeah. Right.
It's not great, but it's like, it's a setback. But it's a small
Right.
setback at that.
Right. That's so true. It's all our perspective, right?
Yeah.
We have to step back. That's a great coping skill that you've developed,
Yeah, thank
where
you.
you compare. You've taken like the tens, the trauma that are tens, and you're comparing your current situation. I do something like this. I say, okay, I'm at the end of my life, and I'm looking back to this, incident right now. Is it even important? Is it something I'm even going to remember? Not really,
Yeah.
right? I mean, nobody's died. This is this is going to be fixed, and I'm not going to think about it a year from now. So yeah, I totally agree with that. And I would just say, you're using your time wisely. This time off, and I commend you for that because you're going to be so much better off for it when this next season is upon you and you go into whatever it is that you're going to be doing. You're going to be in a much better place than you were before. So
Yeah.
good job on that.
Yeah,
Way to
physically I'm
go.
healing because it was a lot of wear and tear because it was a factory type job and with a lot of lifting,
Yeah.
and I'm not a big guy, so but I always proved myself that I can hang with anyone. But then
Yeah.
and then mentally, like, that's the part where I'm really like, there's things that I'm saying that I wouldn't normally say. Like, I'm not like a super religious person, but I've developed a lot of faith in between this time.
Yeah.
I've been like way more positive about the situation where I'm actually saying, like, when I like it was the day after I got fired and I'm saying, I think that was the best thing that could have happened to me. And that's not something I would have said
Wow.
2 years ago
To
even.
be right, to be able to say that, hey, I got fired once, right when all this hit me, and when I was 22, and I'd been working at this place for a few years, and my job back then was my life because I moved away from my home state and I started life in this big city by myself when I was 17. And so I'd been, went to work and I was, carving a life out for myself, and I got slammed with this thing, and where I was, I couldn't stay awake, and nobody knew what was going on with me. I ended up getting fired from that job, and it was one of the most traumatic things I have ever experienced. It was devastating for me at that time. Of course, I was young. That's how it affected me back then. I would hope to, I'd like to believe that it wouldn't at this time in my life. I don't believe it would because I truly have developed faith as well through the years, and I trust God with the good and the bad, and I trust that everything's working out for my good, and even if I can't see it, and I can't tell you what peace that gives me, right?
Yeah.
And so even as I was going through, my life with all the challenges, and there were quite a few, in the mix besides these, um, a husband who became disabled. He was an only child, and his elderly parents both became disabled. So I was taking care of everybody. And during that time, I got pregnant with my daughter, Jaelin. I was 41. I wasn't expecting that. And then she was born with issues. And I had all these people relying on me. And plus, I had two other children. And I just thought, that was the only time in my life I thought, once I had Jaelin, and the challenges were just so intense because she wouldn't eat. I mean, what do you do with a baby that's supposed to be eating every couple of hours and won't eat? Like, if that goes on very long, she could die, right? I mean, it was the first time in my life I thought I might not make it.
Yeah.
I might not be able to make it, but God saw me through. He did. And he has, all this time, and things have worked together for good because I'm so much stronger. I'm a different person. I have so much compassion for people in so many walks of life, dealing with so many things. And I'm naturally an encourager. That's my gift. And, you know, I'm blessed to bless others. You know, that's what I live for, and that's what really keeps me going. And I'm just so grateful for really everything in my life. I can say that now, like you can, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
and it's just all that moment where you know, where it's just life. It seems to be slipping away, and it's just you're drowning in your
yeah,
depression and your anxiety, and then
yeah.
something just kind of there's just
Pulls
that
you out.
small little light that you're just holding on to, and you're just like, all right, there's that, and it's like you're at the bottom of the steps, but
Mhm.
the steps it's like a billion steps, and you're like, I don't know how I'm gonna get
Mhm.
up there. There's no way I can make it, and then
Mhm.
you're like,
Right.
after a while, you're like, okay, I've already done 100. Oh, that wasn't so bad.
Mhm.
And then
You are
oh, and
making
now I've
it.
done a
Mhm.
thousand, and then you start moving, and
That's right.
you still the light
Every
gets a
day.
little bigger. It's still pretty far away, but you're still moving, and
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. So you're not where you want to be, but you're not where you used to be, right?
Oh yeah,
And
that's yeah,
and does
evident.
anybody
Yeah.
expect perfection from us? No.
No.
As long as we just keep putting one foot in front of the other and we just keep moving forward with what we know, you know, and then if when we blow it, because we will as humans, we just we have to forgive ourselves and we just have to get back up and just keep going.
Well,
You
that
know, just
yeah.
today we're going to put that foot in front of the other again. I'm not going to think about how I really blew it yesterday, you know. Today's a new day. And so again, that's just a choice, right? And that's why I love your show,
Thanks.
because um, giving people the opportunity to share, and people who are struggling with things so much worse than I ever struggled with, you know, just I hope that people are receiving hope, you know, and being encouraged, and that's what it's all about, right? We're all in our on our own journey, right? But
Mm,
we can't make it alone.
no.
Those are the people that don't make it, the people that are alone. So I'm like you. I don't want anybody to ever feel they're alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So,
I try to use my resiliency. Like, there's so many moments where, especially even lately, just been trying to figure out. Like, there's been moments where I'm like, how are you still standing? Like, what is it? What is it? Why? What are you holding on to? Because there was moments where there was periods in my life that I didn't know why I was alive. Or I hold on.
mhm.
I've said this multiple times where I was holding on just to the fact because I didn't want my mom or my grandma to find me dead. But like over
Oh,
that were the only reasons why I was hanging in there. And then, but I
yeah,
kept grasping on to little things, and now however many years later I'm still here and I have more things to be proud of and more things to hold on to.
yeah,
But that's really
mhm,
what it comes down to. It's just you don't know
yeah.
how resilient you are until you're challenged, and
That's
then
right.
you're challenged again and again and again. You just keep getting up, and at some point
Mhm,
you just keep getting punched. But it's like that didn't really
mhm.
hurt that much. And then
That's right.
someone
Get
will look at you
stronger.
like, well, what's wrong with you? Like you know, whatever. You just got dumped or this and this, and it's like, yeah, but like I was on my deathbed at one point. Like this sucks,
Mhm.
but like it
Right.
stings. But like I'll just after a week,
You
this
know
is
you're
just
going
gonna
to
go
get over
away.
it.
Yeah, I'm gonna heal from this
That's
nice
right.
and quickly. This isn't. I didn't tear my ACL. You just punched me in the face. Like this is fine.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's one thing about getting older and experiencing life. You figure out, you know, these things that happen when we're real young, they seem like the end of the world, like a breakup, right?
yeah,
It's
it's
one of the
awful.
hardest things people go through, right?
Yeah.
Um, you know, and there's so many other things, but you know, at the time when you're going through it, and like me when I was like 23 or 20, yeah, something like that, when I got fired, my goodness, it seemed like the end of the world. I felt completely rejected, like I must be a horrible person, you know. Didn't even want to even try to get into that line of work again because I felt like I can't cut it because I got fired.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, as you grow older and you go through these things, you get stronger, like you said, more resilient. It's one of the real benefits of getting older. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
So,
And that's why I try to tackle every side of what mental health is because like I think so many people talk about it on this surface level, but there's so many points to it, and there's a
mm,
lot of it's
that's
just
so
based on
true.
experience in life, and there's
And everybody's different.
yeah, there's
Every single person has their, you know, their own story, their own challenges. But
yeah,
but people need to understand that nobody gets away scot free in this life.
yeah,
You
no,
know, I remember believing that, you know, other people had a great life and they were happy, and you know, every day was just joyful and everything worked for them. And what was wrong with me? Why was my life so challenging, so hard? Why were things not working for me? It made me feel like there's something wrong with me. You know, I've grown to understand it just simply wasn't true. You know, even as an adult now, 57 years old, um, you know, when I'm out and about, I'm sure I look like I have it all well put together, right?
Yeah.
Like people do.
Oh yeah.
But, you know, until you really know what people are dealing with, you don't know. But they are. Everybody is dealing with stuff. I don't care how much money they have. Everybody thinks, oh, if I just had enough money, you know, I'd be happy. I wouldn't have issues because then I could, you know, buy things, buy help, do whatever I need. No, that's not true. Some of the most miserable people are the ones with the most money. We know that.
Yeah.
So
And there's a lot of
it's,
people smiling right through their teeth, like they're hurting. And
that's
I've
right.
been there. I've been in some
Hurting.
really
That's right.
lost places where it's like I just want one good interaction, but like one really bad interaction can make me want to throw myself into traffic. And it sounds awful, but that's how I was feeling at one point because I just wanted someone to
It,
just say, "Hey, TJ, you look nice today," or whatever. Give me a hug or a handshake or just
right.
someone just saying, "Good
Right.
morning, sir."
Right. Isn't it amazing how little can bring us up?
Yeah.
Just someone's kindness.
Yeah, for
Just
sure.
because it makes you feel like you matter, like somebody cares. To
Yeah.
say hello, good morning. That's a nice shirt. You know, something.
Anytime
Right.
I see somebody in a
I mean, we can
wheelchair
all
with
do that.
a cane or anything, I immediately just like, especially if they're struggling, like at the grocery store trying to reach something, like, do you need me to reach something? Even if I'm like, they could be taller than me, and I'm like, I will climb this
Mm-hmm.
thing to get it. Like, what do you need? But
Oh,
just because I get how hard it is, but I also, the only thing I worry about is because I don't want them to think that I'm trying to take away from like their independency. Because like I get like,
right.
because there's a part of me where I know people have reached out like, well, you can't see, and I'm like, no, I'm independent. I can do this. But I want them to kind of understand like I'm just trying to help you. Like if you can do it, do it. But like if you just want some
Sure.
help, don't it doesn't it doesn't take much to ask. I'm here.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Mm.
um,
Yeah, you have quite the perspective there. Mm.
yeah, thanks. So we actually before we kind of wrap this up, we have to kind of talk about your product and like
Yeah.
how Jaelin got better, really.
Okay. Well, I was just going to tell you, not only did Jaelin experience like a total turnaround, I did as well. So I'll just really quickly tell you what happened with me, and then I'll just tell you a little bit about this. And if you have anyone that's interested in learning more, I'll let them know my website. Okay.
Sure.
Um, so is that okay?
Yeah, please. No,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. Great. So to my amazement, it worked equally as well for me. And since then, every one of my friends and family members who have tried it as well. And what I found is that pretty much everyone, like we talked about earlier, is suffering with health concerns now. Even young people who, in the past, if you were in your 20s, typically didn't have any health issues, and now I find that my kids and all their friends in their 20s, they all have health issues. It's, you know, I don't know what to make of it exactly. I have my thoughts, but everybody's suffering. So I started sleeping through the night. At first, I thought it was a fluke, and then it was consistent. I knew it wasn't a fluke. My energy went through the roof. Okay, so you know that was my main issue for decades. I had no energy. And you know how hard everything is to do in life when you have no energy?
Uh-huh.
I didn't even want to take caffeine. I didn't really want to. I had all the energy I wanted, and it was the first time in my adult life. And it felt so good. My body quit hurting, and the crashes stopped. Those daily crashes, they stopped. It was life changing. I've been dealing with those forever. And I no longer had to, like, you know, survive each day. I was just like kind of thriving each day, which did wonders on my, you know, anxiety and, you know, depression when that would hit me. It's just like life, just like everything looked new and bright. The future looked bright because I felt good. Like the whole trajectory had changed. Besides what was going on with Jaelin, like I cannot still hardly wrap my mind around either one of those things, but it's the truth. So I currently feel better now than I have my entire adult life. Because remember, this all hit me when I was 22.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never experienced life feeling normal, having normal energy, being able to plan your day and know that you're not going to crash and worry about that and how you're going to get through that. I don't have to do that anymore. So that is basically why I'm on this mission to uh, share my story with as many people as possible, because I believe there's not anyone who wouldn't benefit immensely from this. So a little bit about what this is. Okay, I can't say much. Uh, we have to be careful about what we, the claims we make. FDA is like, you can't say that, can't say that, even though, we have uh, patents and clinical studies, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. We have to be careful about what we actually say, but it's all on my website so people can see it there. So it's drug-free, it's affordable, it's wearable technology. There are over 100 clinical studies on it, over 150 patents on this. The company started in 2004, so it's going on 20 years next year. But this product causes cell activation. It was only introduced in 2019, this one, and so that's why most people haven't heard about it yet. But I guarantee you will, because of what it does. It's spreading like wildfire. So currently, there are over $1 million in sales per day. We're in 70 countries, and darn well this would not be selling, and people wouldn't be wanting it like this if it wasn't working. But the results that I told you about with me and my daughters, my daughter, I have other daughters too, and they also are having results, but Jaelin's my main one.
Right.
Everybody's experiencing the same kind of things. That's why it's just spreading like this. So if you have any viewers, anybody like more information, they can go to my website. I'd be happy to consult with anyone and give them more information, just personally, one-on-one. There's a place on my website where you can schedule an appointment. And my website is jvision, Jae Vision, VISION.com, JAEvision.com. And there you'll find everything about it. It's all right there.
Awesome. Yeah. Please go check that out. Yeah, no, I think there's so many things out there that are helping people. It's just there's just too much to choose from, and there's a lot of things that, like if the government or whoever doesn't clarify it as something that's, because there's so many things that they will say works and doesn't work, and there's just so much medication that really is really harmful to you, but they will allow that, and it's so much, and even like something like marijuana. Well, like a lot of people use that for chronic pain and it helps, but because there's so much propaganda against it, and I don't smoke, but there's so much propaganda against it that it's like, oh well, no, this and we're getting closer to where we're going to fully legalize it, I think, but like it's silly. Like it should have probably never been illegal, because it's like people smoke cigarettes and that's awful for you. Vaping's awful for you.
Well, so it's a business, TJ, as you know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And so anything that's going to take away from business is not going to be allowed. I just heard yesterday that the owners of that pomegranate juice, it's really big, it's in those cool little bottles. They are now being regulated, and they can't even say what the benefits of pomegranates are. Can you imagine that? It's fruit. Hello? But and the essential oils, same thing. You cannot, those people who sell those essential oils, they are not allowed to make claims. They can't tell what it does, but we know what these things can do. And same with CBD and this kind of thing. So anything that is not going to benefit the industry is going to be shut down. That's fine. People are still going to tell people. And that's why it's important to me that I share.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you're not going to find this information anywhere else. You're not going to get it from your doctor, that's for sure. You're not going to see it on a store shelf. It's got to be people telling people, and people seeing, what it's doing through, their family. That's what happened with me. I had no intention of getting into this. I already had a business. But when people around us started seeing what was happening with us, and then the first person that I wanted to get on it was my cousin, who was dying from from something I'm not even supposed to say, right? I mean, we've been gagged. I'm not even supposed to mention a disease, right? But so he was dying. It had to do with Vietnam and Agent Orange way back when, and he was on his deathbed. So I just immediately said, please try this. And he said, Deana, send me whatever you've got. And so I did. And he got out of his deathbed. He went to Hawaii with my dad a month later to realize his dream of visiting Pearl Harbor. Um, he he got his cows back. He had sold all the cows on his ranch because he's preparing to die and he didn't want to leave his wife with all that burden. He's got his cows back. He says he feels like the clock has been turned back 20 years. Okay, so when people around him, around me, around Jaelin saw what was happening, we were just kind of inundated. I was with, how do I get this? How do I get this? I need to try this. And then they got on it. They experienced results. Then people around them, and then boom. I mean, it just organically happened that this became my primary focus, and that's pretty much what I do full time right now. And I've never enjoyed doing anything more in my life than this because of the results, that I see. And every day, I get reports from people telling me things that are changing in their bodies that really are considered medically impossible. I mean, if you think about what happened with Jaelin, with me, with my cousin, these things cannot happen. Once you are in the decline, they'll give you medications to deal with your symptoms, but you're still in decline. And most people know the outcome. The trajectory is heading one way, and it's scary. And for people to have hope, to hear your story and then go, my gosh, it sounds too good to be true. But hopefully people can hear my genuineness, if I can say that this is for real, and that, the passion that I have to get this word out while we still can, because it gives people hope. And then when they try it for themselves and they actually experience it, it just doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to try to not get lost in the whole like salesman pitch because people are like, oh, she's just trying to sell me something.
Yeah.
But then there's,
No,
yeah.
that's why I just tell my story.
Sure, exactly.
That's why I just tell my story. Since like February when I first started talking about it, I have over 400 people. These are just people that I know and people that they know. You're the first person I've talked to like this. I told you that. This is the first interview I've ever had. And the reason I'm doing it is because the FDA is kind of cracking down, on these types of things that are really helping people. I sort of feel like it's kind of now or never to get the word out. Like I might not be able to do this kind of thing, And so that's why it's important to me, why I reached out to you to find out if, this might be something that you feel would benefit your audience and to share my story, because I can certainly relate with, yours and with what a lot of your people are experiencing. So I'm glad that you agreed, and I thank you very much for letting me come on.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime. I'm happy we got to know each other. Obviously, we can keep in touch and stay friends and support each other.
Yeah, I would like that.
Did we cover everything you wanted to cover?
Yes, I think I covered everything.
That's awesome. Yeah. So again, well, don't hang up because I'll end it.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you for coming on, and like I said, I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you.